Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from, calling in from around the world. Love to see it. I'm Rick Palaia. I lead SmartSuite's customer organization. So looking after the very diverse and growing customer segment that we have here, and a big piece of what we're doing with customers is helping them get off the ground, right? This is a platform to build on. As a reminder, this is not a point solution. So the beauty of SmartSuite is you do roll up the sleeves, you do get building, we give you plenty of guidance along the way. But those first few steps can be a bit intimidating to some. They can be a thrill ride, an adrenaline rush to others. And you have someone here to guide you in Jeff Gonzalez, who I'll pass the reins over in a second, who has now done this in the no-code space and helping customers build for a few years, but done this across hundreds, probably bordering thousands of customers of varying industries, functions, needs around the world. I know that's a lofty intro, Jeff, but I'm excited to hear what you're getting into today.
Yeah, no pressure at all on me. Thank you for that, Rick. Appreciate it. Yeah, so if anybody was in attendance for the last session that Rick and I did together in this Getting Started series, we talked about the data layer, right? So you're working out of maybe a template out of our template gallery. It works, but you'd like to personalize it to fit exactly what it is that you're looking for out of your tool. How do we do that? That's what we're looking to help with here. The first layer or episode, we talked about the data layer, right? So you have all of these different apps at play. You have all of these different fields within there. Which apps do I need, not need? Do I need to add or do I need to include more? And then as far as additional fields of information that might be important to you and your organization to keep track of. Today, we're going to talk about the next layer, and that layer is the logic layer. So agenda is as follows. First off, what in the world is even the logic layer? I'll go through that really quickly. And then the examples of quick wins within this layer, just to provide some inspiration for you guys. And then a quick Q&A at the end, potentially not quick because we love fielding all of those questions. And we'll likely be fielding some of those questions as we go through. Highly encourage you to throw those questions our way. And Rick will stop me and tell me to step back from my demonstration, and we'll make sure we address them. So if everybody's comfortable with this, let's jump right into what is the logic layer. So if you think about the layers of an application, if you're developing some kind of tool, if you will, three layers: the data layer, which I talked about a moment ago, the logic layer, and then the interface layer, right? If you're developing from custom code, you're going to need to be proficient in all of these languages at every layer to be able to deploy that tool that you're looking to have your team work out of. And so the advantage of SmartSuite is, yes, we allow you to develop your own custom applications, but you don't need to be proficient in any language outside of the language that is SmartSuite. And so if you're thinking about the data layer, which apps do I need? Which fields do I need? How do those data sets need to be related to each other using linked records? And then because I don't want to have duplicative information and have instances of double entry, what information can I look up or roll up across the different applications that I have? And then what we're going to talk about today, the logic layer, right? Automations, formulas, rollups, count. This is explained in order on purpose, right? So these are our chronological steps to building that custom application. You want to start with the data first, figure out everything that you're working with. And then from there, then you start to think about, what can I automate? How can I enrich my data sets? How can I harvest insights from the information that I already have? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. The last piece being that interface layer. How in the world do I get people to want to use this tool that I've now built? How can I construct different views or dashboards that make it really easy for folks to get in and know exactly what they're going to be doing when they start to work out of SmartSuite? And so some examples of some quick wins that I'll show within the logic layer today. First of which being within the project management solution, budget tracking, right? How do I keep track of all of the spend across my different tasks and look at it from a project level? And then how can I create some of those tasks automatically for myself once I kick off a project? And the next piece within a CRM context, how long has it taken me to close one of these opportunities that I have in my pipeline, right? Whether it's close won, close lost, I need to figure out how quickly we're moving and if there are any themes so that we can adjust from there. And then the next piece is going to be within the CRM. And this is a cool one because this is going to connect our project management solution with our CRM solution. Is once we've marked that opportunity as closed won, how can we have that initiate the project for us on our behalf? Perfect. You'll see here in a moment, once I switch tabs, I actually consolidated the project management solution and the CRM solution into one solution that I've affectionately referred to as project management CRM. So bear with me, because I would typically have each of these applications likely in their own different solution buckets, but we'll show, for demonstration purposes, we'll show them together. Give me one moment here. Let me switch what I am sharing. Rick, any questions in the chat so far that I have missed?
So Rick just asked in the Q&A, what's the difference between linked records and a lookup field?
Very good question. So linked records are how you provide, how you show the relationship between your applications, right? So you have accounts and you have opportunities. I'd like to be able to show that this opportunity is related with this account. You would use a linked record to be able to show that relationship. Let's say I've brought over, I'm showing that account is related to that opportunity, but I would like to also look up within that account, who's my account manager? I can use a lookup within the opportunity application to say, let me look up who the account manager is over here in my accounts app and bring that information into the opportunity, because I don't want to have to enter that information again or adjust the information in both places moving forward. Accounts are where we show who the account manager is, but I'd like it to be reflected within the opportunity so I can immediately see it. Cool. Let me share my screen. Screen share check. Are we looking at project management CRM webinar solution here?
Check.
Yep. Check. There we go. Cool. So we'll start with project management. Pretty simple setup that we have here. We have a list of all of our different projects. You can have it formatted in whatever view you'd like. In this case, we're working out of the grid view. Keep it simple, right? The very left-hand side, you're always going to have, we call it our title field, but this is going to be the thing, and every field to the right of it is a detail about said thing. So we have the build a business implementation, org beehiver, new expansion. These are the names of our projects. This is our project manager, due dates, status, et cetera, as you go down the list. One of the important things that we're going to be looking at right now is the budget tracking aspect, right? So this is a static currency field in which you can clarify the budget for each of these projects, right? So 2,000, 4,000, 1,000, this is what we've allocated to complete said project. And so if we look at this linked record field here, you can see that we've got a relationship to tasks. And so what this is saying is we have a list of all of our tasks here. Which project are these tasks related to? And so we've created that relationship and shown those links here to say that tasks 1 through 5 that we're seeing here are related to the Almanac Enterprises training. And you can open up that record and see all the information about that project that lives in the other application, but we're working out of the tasks app. And so to go back to the budget tracking aspect, we have also another static currency field to show the cost of completing each of these tasks at this point. So you can see we've spent $100, $200, $150. We don't want anybody to have to break out a calculator or pencil and paper to be able to determine what is the sort of roll up or sum of all of these costs as they're related to the projects. And so what we're going to do here at the project level, this is our first quick win, is we're going to roll up all of this information. And we're going to say, using a roll-up field, similar to Lookup, but it's going to assess some sort of field of data in all of the records that are linked here in this linked record field. So we want to look at linked to tasks, and we want to look at the field in tasks called cost. And what we want to do is we want to sum all of those fields, and that's exactly what we've done here. So you'll notice that this line here is highlighted in red. So we have a budget of 4,000, but so far when we roll up all of those tasks, we've spent $4,600. Actually included a spotlight here with a formula field that clarifies that we have gone over budget. And this is a bit more advanced, but we're using an if statement. And so what it's saying is, if this condition is the case, then give me this. If it's not the case, then give me that. And so what we're saying is total costs. If total costs are more than project budget, then give us the stop sign. We see here it's giving us the stop sign, and the spotlight is saying where we have an over budget, a stop sign, go ahead and highlight it in red. And we've done that. One quick example. The next example is going to be for task creation, and this is where we get to talk about automations. So in the last one, we talked about the roll-up field and how valuable that can be, even including a formula to make it a little bit more enriched or easy to highlight. And this one, we're going to talk about how can we make it even easier to create new records depending on the type of project we're working out of. And so you can see here, this field is a single select field. And basically what that means is we have a pool of options. You can only choose one of them. So this is going to be the type of project that we have in place. So we have an implementation project. We have a new expansion or a training project. These are just example scenarios. Forgive me if it doesn't exactly relate to what it is that you're working on, but I feel like everybody has, for the most part, different types of projects, standards, and then you make your adjustments from there depending on the client you're working with. And so what I want to do is I want to say, once I've articulated what the type of project is that I'm working on, I want it to go ahead and create the tasks that pertain to that project. And so I'll go ahead and select the type implementation. If we give it a moment here, it'll actually produce those tasks for us. We see it already starting to do so right now. If we go over to the tasks application, we can see here that for the corporate hierarchy implementation, we now have all of those different tasks created with due dates automatically made for us. They've put it in their different phases. We have task names, all that good stuff. So how exactly do we make that happen? The secret lies behind this dropdown here at the top when you're in your solution, and you click into the automations window. And from here, we have arguably our most powerful feature within SmartSuite, and that's automations. So we're going to actually look at the create implementation tasks automation, what's under the hood here. And so if you haven't ever built your own automation in SmartSuite, everything is based off of if-then statements. So if or when this happens, then do this. And so in this example, our when this happens or our if is when type changes from anything and then it all of a sudden equals implementation, which we just showed there a moment ago. Then I want you to create records for me in the tasks application. So create the record and put this record as phase 1, P1, assign the project manager, name it task 1, give it a due date, make sure that we have it linked to the original project that we actually triggered the automation from, and then mark the status as in process. And as you go down the line here, you can see task 2, P2, we've just created all of these tasks automatically for us with, would that be two clicks, dropping down the single select and choosing which option applies to that scenario. This is something that we see used often, and there's a lot of creativity that you can have within implementing a task creation aspect of your workflow. I don't know, Rick, I'll step there before I start talking about CRM related things. Any questions that we got from that usually inspires some questions?
Yeah, we're being pulled interestingly in two different directions, and I totally understand it. One is folks would appreciate, as a getting started, a little orientation just into the how we get to this point. And then there's other folks that have deeper questions as to the my work section and capabilities of a roll-up field. So perhaps a quick step back into just the homepage and getting us back to where we're at here.
Yeah, probably helpful to do that, right? If we're running the getting started session here, I should probably step back. You have to forgive me. I go through solutions and builds on an everyday basis. Yeah. So I talked about the fact that when you're in an application, the very leftmost thing is the thing, and every field to the right of it, or column, we call columns fields, is going to be a detail about said thing. But if I take a step even further back, what we're working out of right now is a solution. If I go back to our homepage, we see a number of different options for different solutions that we can open up. If I want to look at how we're organizing marketing campaigns, I could do that. It's its own solution with a number of different apps as well. So we call these apps. And these apps can be related to each other, like I showed earlier with a linked record field. But in this case, we're working out of the project management CRM webinar. And we have an app that shows all the accounts within our CRM, which not many here for this demonstration, the contacts and how they're related to each of those accounts. We have opportunities showing which accounts we're working with for these opportunities, projects, tasks, etc. Helpful orientation, Rick? Anything that you think I missed there?
No, that's solid. So that's the orientation to how we build the information that you get in. You'd either be adding a record, you could be uploading a set of information from a CSV or Excel, or you could be setting up some automation or integration where you're pulling information in from another system, perhaps. So different ways to get the info in and add records and build out these applications. And then what
Also,
Jeff's getting into around logic is, how do you mobilize that data? Okay, you've created relationships between your data, you're architecting or you're structuring what your information should look like. There's one thing we care about plenty here, and that's not duplicating the data that you have. As in, if you have a record, that is the source of that record. If you have a project record and it's project A, there should be no need, as sometimes you may be forced to do in certain project management tools outside of SmartSuite, you may be forced to duplicate that in other ways in order to work on it. But by creating these linkages and having that source of truth, a project or an account or a contact is going to be the same record for everyone to use across different solutions. And so that linkage and that visibility across solutions is quite unique to SmartSuite and really important in helping you ensure that you are not creating 10 different versions of the same record.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah. I also showed right over here to the right how you can add a new field. There are a number of different ways that you can add a new field, but important to, as you're getting started, explore all of the different field types that we have. There are over 40, so plenty to explore there. But this is what's going to allow you to enrich the data and add as much detail as you need as you start to import that data from whatever third party you're using right now, whether it's a spreadsheet or some other kind of software as a service. So you mentioned the first one was, hey, can we step back? And I think you mentioned there was a question about rollups.
Yes. Yeah. The next few that have come through. How do we control, this is from Adam, how do we control the My Work section? Can this be configured to show tasks from the Tasks app? And does that mean it can be configured to show tasks from any app?
The answer is yes. And then again, it's also yes. So you understand how the My Work section works. And so everybody understands. Let me take a step back here. The checkbox up in this right-hand corner here is what we call the My Work section. And this is where I can immediately see that in this demo environment, I have a bunch of tasks that are overdue, but this is where everything is bucketed by either the due date, priority, the different solutions that they're a part of. But these are showing me my different tasks that I've been assigned that I need to complete. And so how does the system know that this record or row of information is a task? Great question. Thanks for asking. 3 aspects that are a part of making or helping the system understand that it is a task. And so this is going to be the first one. It's an assigned to field. Really powerful here. This is where you can choose from any of the folks that are users in your workspace. You can choose who actually maybe owns that specific record. In this case, we have projects, project manager. In tasks, we have it just called assigned to. We could say this is task owner if we'd like. But that's the first aspect, is if there's an assigned to field there, perfect. We know who's supposed to be working on that. We have a status field. It's a very specific status field that is tied to the due date and the project manager. And due date is different from the other date field that we have available. Due date is under Project Essentials. And basically, once there is a due date in place, a status, and a project manager, the system will automatically know that is something that person needs to have available to them in their My Work section. And so whether it's something that I've assigned in projects, it's important, if that person is the project manager, that they're aware of when that due date is coming, whether it's a task in our tasks app, whether it's an opportunity that we've shown a due date coming up in 2 days, and we're still not in closed won or closed loss in this status, it's going to have that in my work section as well, just to let me know, hey, this is something that you should probably be looking at because you're assigned to it. And so everybody's experience in my work is going to be completely different depending on obviously their account and what they've been assigned to. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. So, Adam, another question. Is there anything the roll-up field can do that the formula field can't do?
Make it easier. It's a great question. You can do this exact same thing if I show it in a formula. So right now we're looking at all the tasks. We're looking at the costs of each of those tasks and we're summing them up. If I wanted to do that in a formula, I'll call this example. I could say sum. Let's look at the link to tasks. The field that I want to sum up is the cost. Perfect. And so we've now done exactly that. There's no $sign on there. I like it when it has the $sign. Cool. Let's go ahead and do that. And then add, oh, actually, this is going to put the $sign at the end. Let's add a $sign to the front. Perfect. Close parenthesis. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I put it before sum. Look at what happens when I try to build live. There we go. And now we just concatenated the value and the $sign to be able to create this exact experience. An aspect that is also really powerful, how many times am I going to say really powerful, is you could filter to say, I only want to include tasks or include records that meet a certain condition. So if I only want to get an idea of the cost of those tasks when it's finally incomplete, an example for this would be they're probably still adding or figuring out what the cost of completing the task is going to be until it's actually complete. So I only want a roll up of complete tasks. We've now completely adjusted this. You can also do that here using sum if, but I'm not going to get into that because that'll get a whole lot more complex than we probably want to get here on this webinar. But to answer your question, it just makes it a whole lot easier to get to the same destination.
So, Adam, I know you have a few other questions here. Please feel free to chime in if we're not answering these spot on or sufficiently. Question here from an anonymous attendee. Interesting. Can you view the opportunities in the calendar view? And can you differentiate between opportunities and confirmed projects?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if we want to, so first off, you can have as many different views as you'd like. I spun this up yesterday in an hour. So I just have this one grid view. If we wanted to, let's say, create a new view, make it a calendar view, let's make it public. Let's call it calendar view for convenience. You now are looking at the desired implementation date as the date field, but let's select due date or close date. So now we can see each of those records shown here on a calendar. We can open it up and still see the record summary or expanded record view. Go ahead and delete this description field that shouldn't be there. Cool. And yeah, so the differentiation here would be the fact that these are all the opportunities and we can create a similar calendar view in projects. If we wanted to add other calendars as well, I can create a calendar view in projects and say that we are looking at the due date of each of those projects. Awesome. And so if we come over here back into opportunities, let's add another calendar and let's choose the calendar view from projects. So now we can see at a glance each of those pieces. And let's make the calendar view, let's make those ones orange for the different projects that we have coming down the pipe, which I don't know if I created this correctly since I spun this up right now. Cool. A lot to look at there, but I hope that's helpful.
Well, plenty you can do. Take a step back more broadly. Once you have your data in and you're starting to use this logic layer, or you're starting to mobilize your data through automations or through common workflow chains, how you visualize your data is something that we'll deep dive into in a future session. But just in short, the same data that you have here, most commonly viewed in a grid view, We know that some folks out there have aversion to this. They see a grid view, they think of a bad spreadsheet or Excel experience, and they don't want to dive in, or simply their data is better visualized in another way. If you could just click on the view types, perfect, Jeff. So there are a number of other ways that you can take this same data and you can look at it based on the type of data that it is, be it a card view, be it a Kanban view, a calendar view, a timeline view, plenty of different ways that you can visualize it. And your colleagues that you may be working with, your customers, your clients, they might want to see it in a certain way and you might want to operate in another way. It's the same underlying data. Back to the point I made before, is what you are doing and manipulating and working on and building in a grid view. If you just want your clients to see it in a Kanban view, or you want your colleagues to see it in a calendar view, if it's a marketing calendar, it's all the same data. It changes in lockstep. You're not duplicating anything. It's just a different way to visualize it. Okay. A couple more tactical ones, solid questions, and then we'll let you get back in the groove there, Jeff. Joan has a question around how do you show a total from the column of records at the bottom? The total of values.
Very good. So we're looking here at tasks. Let me pull up a group that has some costs. Cool. So these are all the tasks related to the Build a Business implementation project, right? We're grouping by the projects. So if I want to get a quick roll up from just the task view, I can hover over and click on this bottom toolbar and choose how I'd like it to assess the data, whether I want a sum, an average, lowest, highest, standard deviation, in case you want to get real mathematical. But that's a simple one.
Awesome. A lot of power in that. And we have folks ask us about all the time, right? How do I sum, average? If you're looking at date ranges, if you show under the due date, the options of what you can do with the data, just at the bottom there, Jeff, if you're clicking the underneath, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, where you typically sum. So the options that you have, SmartSuite, they're intelligent, right? They're based on the type of data that you have in there. So you wouldn't be summing due dates, but you could find a date range of the due dates or a latest date or an earliest date. So plenty that you can do based on the type of the field type and the type of data that you have in there. Awesome, Joan. Sounds like we tick the box for you there. And then Adam has a question around, can you have a task set with no due date and still have it appear in my work?
No, so the due date's going to be really important so that we understand where it's actually going to fall. But you can still make it really easy for somebody to see all of the tasks that have been assigned to them. We've worked with an AI drug discovery company who the theme for them was I'd like to have visibility for everybody, but I don't want to have the accountability aspect that'll keep people from wanting to adopt the tool that they use next. And as our soft launch, it was, I just want all the information pertaining to that individual to be available to them. And I don't want to have a due date that says, hey, you need to get this done. Where is this? Which we completely understood. And so you can have filters included in here to show, that's right, I changed it to task owner a moment ago. If I want to filter this to show only where the task owner, which is the assigned to field we talked about earlier, I only want to show tasks where it's the current user. So we're looking at the same grid view here. I'm only seeing these 5 records. If Rick or Brian, who's the other person assigned to some of those records, were to enter into the same view, their experience is completely different. And while it doesn't reflect here in my work, if they have this view starred, and if they go up into the starred items, they can immediately just go to exactly what it is that they need to. And it's filtered and it's only showing them what they need to see.
Perfect. Last one I'll call out. Olivier has a question around on the same topic. This is a double click of the previous bottom of row column or bottom of column date range and sum and the type of manipulation you could do or the summaries you can do on the data. Can you do the range of due dates of tasks not completed yet? And Jeff can walk through this. Simply, this is you would create a filter, or you might want to create a new view. So you have your tasks here. And if you create a new view and just apply a filter for any tasks that are status not completed, Look at how easy Jeff makes it seem. And then, so that same date range will apply across just the filtered records to show you exactly what you're looking for, Olivier. Really cool question though. I like that. Stephanie, and then Jeff, you get back into it. These are just great questions. I want to keep them flowing. For onboarding new employees, can you set them up with the views you want them to have in advance so they're ready to go?
The answer is yes. So you can create all of the views as you need to, and then just make them public. And what we typically suggest is when you invite folks, usually think about for each of the different teams, which views are going to be really important to them. And we've helped customers do this where we put together an email message that goes out to those new teams who are joining. Hey, welcome to SmartSuite. We're happy to have you. All the pleasantries, but then immediately a list of go into this solution, these apps, these are your views, hit the star icon. This star icon, really important to use as you're just inviting new groups in so that they can come here to the home screen and then immediately click on what they need. And they're right back into that grid view of all of the tasks. So creating those views beforehand, inviting them, letting them know this is exactly where you should be going.
Yeah. Stephanie, also note, you probably are seeing this, but the URL up at the top changes as you're navigating across solutions, you're navigating across apps. So you might want to take that URL in particular view or wherever it is that you want your new hires to land on and just create a simple 3 or 4 list of these that you want them to go into specifically. So there are several ways to do it. We actually have some interesting new ways that will be coming soon. I don't want to be the leak of that info, but some really cool ways to achieve the same result.
I wasn't going to either. I wanted to touch on it, Rick.
It's tempting.
It's stuff to be excited about in the future, y'all.
Yeah, September is going to be a very big month for us. Excited about that. Okay, Jeff, feel free to get back into your flow.
Let's do it. CRM, how long is it taking me to close an opportunity? And this one's really simple, done with a formula field. We're going to look at when was this opportunity or this record first created. And so important to mention, first created and then last time the record is updated are system fields, meaning they exist without you creating them, and they also cannot be deleted. For compliance and tracking purposes, really valuable to have those available to you. And so what we've done here, and you're noticing values of 0.84, it's because like I said, just built this yesterday within an hour. But what this formula is assessing is we're using the date diff function. And Rick, I don't know if you could throw it in the chat, but we do have a formula guide, the list, a grid view of all of our different formulas. It's my best friend. Rick will throw that link into the chat for you guys. But date diff essentially says, okay, look at date 1, look at date 2, and tell me the difference in terms of whatever we're telling it. And so the available units are minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. I don't need to get as granular as minutes and hours, but I would like to know how many days is it taking for us to close this opportunity. And so this last modified time status, we're wrapping the status field in it. What this is saying is when's the last time that status field was updated in particular. And so if we look at the status field, there are a couple of settings in here. Most important, not most important, but most important for the example that I'm talking about right now, these bubbles here on the right of each of our options. By the way, you can control what these are called and how many of them even exist. But these bubbles show that this means complete. So when something is complete, it will no longer populate in the My Work section. And we won't have this yellow icon here in due date where it's attached. It'll show here as green, whether that's closed lost or closed won. And so the general thought here is we're going to use the difference between when it was first created and the last time it was modified, because once it goes into closed won or closed lost, likely it's not going to change again. It'll be the last time that that opportunity is touched. We can create views to take them out of visibility for the folks who are working out of these grid views. But because it's no longer going to be touched again after closed won or closed lost, this is always going to be accurate for you. When was that record first created? When did it move into closed won or closed lost? And how long did that take? What was the difference between those dates? Cool. So the next piece and last piece that we're going to cover today is another automation. And so what we want to do is we've just marked the opportunity as closed one. Right now, this corporate hierarchy opportunity for implementation is in the evaluation stage. What's going to happen when we actually mark that as closed one? How can we automatically let maybe the project manager know that this is now going to be an active project? And how can we just create the project automatically? And so corporate hierarchy implementation, as we come over here to projects, we can see we now have a new corporate hierarchy project here that exists. We've already included the project manager. It's in process. Cool. Due date. The due date's being populated with, in opportunities, we have a desired implementation date that is filled out prior to, and it already links it back to that account, corporate hierarchy for us. The only thing left for us to do, like we talked about earlier, is to distinguish which type of project it is. We know we open up the link to accounts, corporate hierarchy. We know it's an implementation, right? Because the opportunity was an implementation. So perfect. Let's go ahead and move that into implementation. And we saw what happened earlier for corporate hierarchy implementation. It'll automatically produce those tasks for us. Creating a record for projects and needing to go in there and fill in all of those details based on the information and opportunities. And instead of having to create all of the task records for the project based on the context around the project, we've used now automations to be able to actually fill all of those gaps for us. And so if we look at the automation configuration for the op closed one, create the project, it's when the status changes from anything to equal to closed one, let's go ahead and create the record. And the record that we're going to create is going to be in the projects app. We want to make sure that we link it to the accounts, the same account that the opportunity was linked to. We want to put the status as in process. The due date is going to be calling on information from the opportunity record, the desired implementation date, and we're making Nate Montgomery our project manager in this case. That one's a super fun one because, like I said earlier, when we were going through the slides, I know slides are probably everybody's favorite part of the webinar, but that's the aspect that actually connects the CRM to our project management flow, right? So we're thinking about two different workflows, but they are connected. We might have projects and tasks in a completely different solution, but we still want them to flow together because work within an organization always in some way flows together. I imagine I'll probably get some questions off of that one, but that is the end of my demonstrations of SmartSuite for what I've prepared. So thanks for watching.
Fantastic, Jeff. Y'all at the bottom, there's the reactions. I don't know if you've seen this in Zoom. It's a little smiley face with a plus. Feel free, if you're so obliged, to react with maybe a round of applause or a little something to help Jeff feel the love.
Wow.
You went through quite a bit there. Everyone will get a recording of this afterwards. We'll send it through when we have it. A couple other questions that have emerged, and I love the depth that we're getting in some of these questions and folks that are calling out really important features like, Adam, is there an audit log available for individual fields in a record? Can we see a history of previous volumes a field has taken? Oh, Adam, yes, and more. We believe here for compliance sake that you should know when things are happening, when things are changing, who's changing them, and exactly when it goes down. So you can see here in your activity history, Jeff, if you could just do a quick slow rewind of just getting back to this activity history piece. If you want to X out and jump back in just to show you get in, just how you get into activity history. So at every record, instead of like in a Google Doc or some form where you're jotting down all this information, all your information about that record lives here, all the fields, all the bits of info. And so when you in the top right-hand corner click into your activity history,
I just want to show, sorry, how you can also drag and drop and control how this looks as well. Sorry, let me stick to the question.
For your activity history, you can see here what Jeff has changed, what's he changed it from, and down to the minute when it's all occurred. Commentary on this is also a question we get quite a bit. And Adam, I saw you had a question somewhere in there around how do we see comments, or how can we enable comments on a record when it's not visible? So what Jeff has done here visually, perfect. Okay, so he's jumped right into the communication center where you're able to @mention, you're able to start dialogue about this particular record, be it a project, be it an account, be it whatever. And instead of these communications being in Slack or in Teams or wherever they may be, all these communications are housed within that record. They should live where they should live in order for you to have a full picture of that record. Really important. Here visually, I think your question, Adam, was, you'll see in the top left this fields to display that Jeff just clicked on, and you'll see available fields, you'll see selected fields. In this case, we just simply had open comments is a default field. It's a system field that we generate automatically in every application. And in this case, Jeff had just hidden it. It's still there. So you could either quick go into it by clicking on that comments as Jeff just showed, or you can go into a record and you can go into the communication center. So just two different doors that lead to the same place. So communication center, a really powerful one as you're able to comment on records there. And Adam, you had a hand raised. I don't know if you want to speak up here for a particular question, or if you, I'm not sure if we answered your question there. Let's see.
It might have been a high five.
Was that a high five? Oh, beauty. Okay. All right, Adam, let us know if you want to speak up. If it was a high five, well received. Jeff has some big paws, so he's probably caught that high five. Question from Stephanie. Can you run meetings in the communications? Can you have a video call with team members?
It's a great question. And at first the answer is not exactly. And then the answer goes to, but you can still create a similar experience. And so one of our view types is the dashboard view type. As you can see, we're here in accounts. You might not likely have this dashboard living in accounts. You can have this dashboard living anywhere, but you can add different widgets, whether you want to have some bar charts, column charts, whatever kind of visuals in place, whether you want to look at comparison metrics, progress metrics, to be able to assess the data within accounts, within opportunities, within projects. You can assess data across the entire workspace. But in this case, we do have a section for conferencing. And so if you want all of this data to be visible for folks as they hop into a Google Meet or Zoom room, if you will, then you can have this widget next to, and you can put the Zoom link here. I'm not going to put a Zoom link in there, but you can have that meeting link directly surrounded by all the other information that you would have here. If I were to pull up an example of one dashboard and how it could look like this, where we have all of the different visuals in place, assessing the information underneath the hood. And then we have here a standard grid view that we've embedded to be able to show all of the different projects. We've sorted it by efficiency here as well. Appreciate the reactions, y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Rick has commented very kindly to us. Thank you, Rick. You owe me no favors for the same first name here, but he's commented on with his deep 30 plus years of computer consulting experience and just acknowledging that he knows a good platform when he sees one. And he's very excited about the future ahead. Context for all, SmartSuite has been in from beginning of build mode till now. It's been a little over 4 years, almost 5 years now. And the first 3 of those years, we were actually in stealth mode, where our founders bootstrapped from their own pockets and employed a development team of over 100 people to create what they felt needed to be beyond an MVP to be competitive in this market. We say MVP affectionately. Truly, the first version that was brought out was feature-rich, robust, and it's certainly only gotten better over the last year and a half and change of being out of beta. So you can expect more. You can expect us to continue to innovate. Much of that is driven. I will drop in here a link shortly to you all and commenting what you need. We use a product called Canny that allows us to collect customer feedback. And instead of being that black hole that you might be familiar with other tech providers, we shine a light on everything where people are calling out new features or ideas that they have. And if you were to like or comment or upvote on a feature that, let's say, another SmartSuite customer had mentioned, and it gets enough traction, start to rise its way up our priority board from a development sake. And you're also then engaged in when we move it to production, or when we move it in development into production. So we take a lot of pride in having a very external product roadmap. And Rick, specifically, you asked about the features or enhancements in Communication Center. Yes, plenty more coming. Jeff, if you can just show what is, we say it's an alpha, but it's just beyond alpha in the Communication Center, the emailing capability. That's a really handy one.
So right now, same Communication Center, same thread of comments. If we want to turn on the ability to actually email from this record, come over here to emails. We can type that email. We can clarify the name of who it's from. Obviously, put my settings to be Jeff Gonzalez. You can type in a static email address, or you can call on information from email addresses that are living within this record. In accounts, I don't have any emails living in this record at this point, but you can type your email here, send it off. And then once somebody replies to this email, it'll actually show in this thread here within the communication, the email section, that entire thread of communication.
Rick, fair call out. He says, why use Canny to collect customer feedback? Why not your own dog food? There could be a future of that. And there are ways in which we use SmartSuite for darn near everything. So yeah, something for us to take offline. That's a fair and funny call out.
So SmartSuite's awesome for managing all of the data and then planning and processing that information internally. But oftentimes there are point solutions that do the job just a little bit better. And so you can have those point solutions in place through in whatever segment of your company, but making sure that at the end of the day, that data is going to a central place where everybody is working out of. It was our theory there. So we do have Canny connected to SmartSuite, but the user experience that folks get using Canny, hats off to Canny, is a bit better than what we could provide natively within our platform. We knew our place there on that front.
But beyond that, when it's all collected, Rick, the actual product development cycle, product management, if there was ever a day where we could show folks what we've built and what our SmartSuite team is using in order to pump out these features, to squash bugs, to enhance the product, it's jaw-dropping. It's truly impressive.
Product development, CRM, quarterly initiatives. Yeah, got plenty in there. Those are 3 of the 25 different widgets, or not widgets, solutions that we have in our workspace.
Sure. And Joan has a question about, is there a webinar on setting up widgets? Our CTO, Peter Novosel, and co-founder recently did a little bit of a more intermediate, advanced, deeper dive into widgets and dashboards, how to set them up, some of the things that you can do. So we can, Joan, if you want to reach out to one of us, and we'll take note of your name to get you a link to that webinar. The very short of it in setting up widgets is you go to a dashboard type view, you click add a widget, and then based on your needs of that widget, you can configure it, drag and drop it. It is completely customizable. So it's not even like a shell to operate out of. You can make it look however you want and extract data across different applications, different solutions. So very flexible. And reporting to clients, Joan, is a top use case. We see that quite a bit. There you go. Geez, the team on hand here is just delivering all the goods. So yeah, the video on dashboards for client portals. And Rick's calling out more webinars with Layla. I would love to do more webinars with Layla. She's an incredible partner to us, and she's a fantastic presenter. Yeah, you can be sure that we'll be pursuing more of those in the very near future. Thanks, Rick. Okay, we may have come to the end of the road. Any follow-up questions, please? You have a team of folks over here that are eager to make sure that people are feeling enabled to build and get your first solution live. The word of advice I love giving to everyone in a getting started session, as I would to a customer I'm speaking with one-on-one, is start with a single use case. It is very easy in here to get going. We have a low floor intentionally. We also have a really high ceiling. And some of you probably started to see how high that ceiling is today, or maybe you're not even seeing the ceiling. Most people using SmartSuite are leveraging 10 to 20%, maybe 30% of the platform, and they're getting more than enough that they need out of it. So please, although we showed quite a bit today, do your best not to get overwhelmed. Easiest way to do that is to focus on that single use case you want to build to start, that you want to put into production, that V1. Don't let perfect get in the way of better. Once that first solution is created, then you can start to bring all the ideas for the V2. And then you can start to find ways to connect your use cases. Our model here is user-based, as in if you want to continue to add more solutions, more use cases, if you want to displace more point solutions, so be it. There's no additional charge for all that. And we have customers that have 30, 40 different solutions. They're powering their whole business off of SmartSuite. I'm quite proud to say that, because they've been able to connect their workflows very intelligently by linking records and creating automation. So if that's the aspirational goal, if that's the North Star, we're here to help. Thank you to all for joining. We appreciate the time. And thanks, Jeff, for steering the ship today.
Thank you all. Appreciate you attending. And thanks, Rick.
All right. Take care, everyone. Have a nice day. Cheers.